Well, guys, can you believe it? We are at the end of the year. That's why we're talking about Christmas and reindeer. And we are just 25 days away from the Iowa caucuses. And new polls show former President Trump is still the overwhelming favorite among Republican voters.
But another state is making moves to potentially take him off the ballot.
Yeah, can you say California? Mark Meredith is live in Des Moines, Iowa with the latest. Hey, Mark.
Brian, Lawrence, and Carly, good morning to you guys. I can't name the reindeer, but I could name the candidates because we're going to be watching them here in Iowa in just a matter of, as you mentioned, 25 days. Former President Trump, he's been repeatedly bragging about his poll numbers, but there's a new survey out from Fox Business which shows he may have reason to celebrate. Our latest survey of Iowa Republican caucus goers shows Trump at 52% support, his 34-point lead over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis has bet everything on Iowa. So far, his efforts appear to be coming up short. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley now at 16%, Vivek Ramaswamy at 7%, and former Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, who's not actively campaigning here in Iowa, sits at 3%. Trump was here in the Hawkeye State Tuesday night for a rally. He urged his supporters not to get complacent, even warning some Trump voters could see those poll numbers and choose to stay home on caucus night if they feel the contest is a lock. His rally also came just an hour after Colorado's Supreme Court ruled he was disqualified from being a candidate. The court says Trump violated the Insurrection Act with his behavior on January 6, 2021. Now, California's lieutenant governor says she wants her state's elections office to do the same. In a letter to the Secretary of State of California, the lieutenant governor writes, California must stand on the right side of history. California is obligated to determine if Trump is ineligible for the California ballot for the same reasons described in the case. The Colorado decision can be the basis for a similar decision here in our state. Now, you got the Trump campaign, the RNC, even Trump's rivals who are running for the White House saying that they think this should be fought, that this is not going to stand. And Trump, of course, has made it very clear that he is eager to get his supporters to chip in to help with his legal fight. And he has been fundraising heavily ever since this Colorado decision was handed down. So we know that they're going to appeal to the Supreme Court, but the window, guys, here for something to happen is quite small because, as we talked about, the Iowa caucus is fast approaching, and Colorado, while their primary is not until a little bit later, I think it's in mid-March, they have to print the ballots in January, so they have to get this done fairly soon.
Mark,
Lawrence, Carly, and Brian?
What's the mood on the ground in Iowa with all of this playing out? I mean, people don't like their votes being taken away, and you know, in Iowa, you got some moderate voters right there. I think that will push them into Donald Trump's arms. What are you hearing?
We did hear from some voters Tuesday night, just as this decision was handed down, and opinions were mixed. You're right. The majority of people we heard from said that they didn't think this was an appropriate action by the Colorado Supreme Court, that they didn't want to feel that their options were being taken away. Obviously, the Trump supporters, very vocal that they feel that this would not be acceptable in any sort of situation. I spoke to a few folks at a DeSantis event yesterday, and I asked them, you know, because they were keeping their mind open. They were looking at DeSantis, and they said, we'll support Trump if he's the nominee, but they weren't necessarily thrilled with him for another a term just in this caucus. So a lot of mixed opinions here in Iowa, but guys, look at those polls. I mean, Trump's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yep.
All right, Mark, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
So in that poll, I thought this was really interesting because you got to get the people to turn out. And I think the Trump team is worried that people think he's so far ahead they won't do it.
Yeah.
But evidently, when Trump's not there, they do most of the work. And they are pounding on people. You have to show up, and talked about how things have been so different from the polls to the results in the past. And then when you talk about people who promised to show up and not change their mind, look at this portion of the poll. The Fox Business poll, supports certain in Iowa caucuses. 83% say I am certain, may change your mind 16%. DeSantis supporters, 59% said I'm certain, 39% said may change their mind. For Haley, 51-43. So you're all in on Trump, and now he's making sure his team know you got to show up. You know what his goal is, guys? Win decisively in Iowa, New Hampshire, and just tell everyone, drop out.
Yeah, that's so true.
Drop out, which is not, I wouldn't do it. But.
Yeah, and Brian, if you think about the things that energize Trump supporters or even the Republican Party, some people who might be on the fence the most, are things like what happened in Colorado. So in one case, this is bad news for Trump because it's another legal battle. It's going to go to the Supreme Court. But when it comes to these early voting states, these types of things could just his poll numbers are so good across the board, but now they're hardening and solidifying, and something like that could even solidify them even further.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much that you can do when you have called the person crazy and said, like, this is all in his mind that he's been targeted. And then you see case after case where he's being targeted. And now he says that he feels like they're trying to take the vote away, and then they're taking him off the ballot. So for even the most moderate person that says, look, I want the tone of the president to change. As one lady said in the diner, I want him to be nicer. When you see this, it makes the point that maybe he's right about this. Maybe they are trying to take the vote away from the people. Just to add on what Brian is saying, everything is about a ground game. In Iowa, the way that they do something, if you've ever been to a caucus, it's much different than any other state, the way they do it. And you need people to show up. Ron DeSantis has had a great ground game, got the endorsement of the governor, but you can have the best ground game, but if you don't have the support of the people,
right,
it means nothing.
You got 3 points from poll to poll. Trump got about 10. And Nikki Haley improved. And if Haley beats DeSantis in Iowa,
then DeSantis is out.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Well, it's a must-win for him.
Yeah. I also thought this was just kind of interesting. It's from the Fox Business polling that just came out on Iowa. It has nothing to do with Trump, but they talked about Haley and DeSantis, who likes them the most, the types of groups of people who support them. Haley's best group is moderates. No surprise there. Infrequent church attenders. naughty, why?
Haphazard.
Yeah, those wanting a candidate who could work across the aisle. And DeSantis gets the highest support from men with a college degree. Immigration voters, because I guess he says that he's stronger on illegal immigration than Trump, although there's something to dispute there. Regular churchgoers, good for them, and those prioritizing electability. I thought that was funny that they broke it down like that.
The one thing that Haley, to your point, has going for her, she has money. So if she doesn't win Iowa, she can go on to the next race. If she doesn't win New Hampshire, she can wait into South Carolina. Ron DeSantis is running out of money in a sense because a lot of those donors have moved over to Haley.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll be following it.
Right. It's going to be interesting. All I can tell you is when you look at Trump and you see everybody says the #2 issue in the country is immigration. Trump does a speech on immigration. I was going to crack down, and they focus on the word. He says, poison this. It reminds you of Hitler. 90% of the people go, that's Trump. Who's going to fix the border?
Yeah.
The border is an absolute 5-alarm fire, and all they're focusing on is Wolf Blitzer talking about Donald Trump using Hitler's words as if he goes to sleep reading Mein Kampf, when the same people say he doesn't read anything.
The attack is just so old and stale.
I
it was
know.
a signature issue back in 2016, and he still won. So
and now it's worse than ever.
Exactly.
And at this point, I think it's pretty clear that the American people, what they focus on, very different than what the media focuses on in a lot of cases.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.